Some quick but good updates on the Excalibre 15 process and on the Marshall. On the Marshall board, got all the holes drilled out to pass the wires through, so the wires have some security before they go to the turrets. It was raining and my drill press was in my tool shed out back, and I didn't feel the need to get it. I didn't do as good a job by hand running these holes as I would have if I had gotten soaked and brought it in the drill press. But they are, once it's assembled, people won't notice that because the wires will be coming out of these holes and going to the turrets and everything will be rock solid. So not my best work, but not bad work. Each hole was then chamfered a little bit. The edges were chamfered on both sides with a countersink bit. So there's no rough surface, no rough edge on these holes to abrade the wire that goes through. So that'll be nice and solid. This board's actually upside down. It goes like this. So that's nice, and it fits the existing holes in the Marshall. So we'll get to that soon. I gotta get the rest of this stuff out of the Marshall. This is the board for the Excalibre 15. I've got the location points for its mounting hardware. Here on the chassis, you can see that the choke is here, not here. In the previous video I said I might mount it here. I decided it was just too close to these tubes and would get a little bit of heat, and it wasn't very attractive from the rear, though. That's not the primary reason I would or would not do that. So I forgot to put the little hole plug here. So I have 3 holes here from my aborted decision to put it here. This is the prototype. It's for a friend of mine. He won't mind. I'll get a hole plug on that one too. More importantly, you can see that these stainless steel screws have a compression washer and then a washer and then the flange of the transformer. In this case, the flange, because it's a little bit higher than the base, has another washer between the chassis and the flange, then a washer, then a compression washer, then a number 8 stainless steel screw. So this stuff is rock solid. This is where this stuff is going to be on these. This hole won't be here on future ones or these two. It's always part of the process, getting everything right. So let me pause this and put a little hole plug in there. Like magic. This hole here, which is factory from Mojotone for the filter cap that most people would use here, I'm not going to do the same kind of plug in. I'm not sure if it's going to be metal or the plastic. I like the plastic better actually because it doesn't rattle. The metal can rattle, but I've got to find or order one. The Lowe's I went to was out in that size. Down here, I enlarged these 2 holes. There are going to be some rubber grommets in these 2 holes for the tube socket for the EF86. I'm going to suspend it, so it's going to have a suspension system, anti-vibration, so any movement of the amp won't translate as strongly to movement of the tube. And that's the same thing you find in a 5E3 Deluxe from Fender. I'll get to showing that later. On the inside, okay, you can see I've got stainless steel nylock nuts, and the threads come all the way to the end of the nylon. If you get it wrong and the thread's halfway down the nut, these don't actually lock. And you can see I've got these small for fender washers, but good sized washers here. Call them small fender washers. And this is an aluminum chassis, and I like to reinforce the aluminum at the point of stress. Maybe for this British amp I should say aluminium. Anyway, the aluminium chassis is reinforced by these small fender washers, which are stainless steel at each mounting point. and that spreads the stress out over a wider area and reinforces the strength of the aluminum chassis. And that'll be great. So I'm looking forward to getting more done on this. I think the next thing to do is get the standoffs in place so I can mount the board and do all that layout, and I'll get the tube sockets in, and all kinds of fun stuff is coming up, including this cool thing I just discovered. In the previous video, you'll remember that I was complaining about the press-in IEC plug that Mojotone uses and the hole for that. I did find one of my screw-in IEC receptacles, and I found that with very minimal filing on this side and this side, I can do this. Which means I can use a screw-in IEC, so that's good. And you can see that gap there. Let me pause this and show you the gap. All right, you can see that gap there on the top and bottom. I will design the rear control plate so that that is hidden, and the material for the plate will go right behind the IEC plug. The important thing is that it will grab metal on the sides where the screws are. So we will be able to use this higher quality screw-in plug. After all, if I had my druthers, I would mount it from the rear, so only that part's visible. That's a more professional, clean look. But I cannot do that with this chassis without going to great expense, which I would then have to pass on to you. So we will all just have to live with it this way, and it'll be mounted with really nice quality hardware, and it'll be a non-issue. But this jack, unlike the press-in jack, once it's tight, will never come loose, and should someone manage to break one, it is very easy and inexpensive to repair. And yes, I know there are IEC receptacles which include include a fuse drawer, and I love those. I've used those in the past, but that is a much larger cutout, and it's much better to have that done when the chassis is stamped by the manufacturer. So that's not an option here. We're going to have mains and HT fuses into standalone holders, and I'm not sure whether I'm going to go with a 3AG or a 5x20 fuse yet. I need to see which fuse holders are most attractive, don't protrude out too much, and fit in a 1/2 inch. I'm thinking it's probably going to be, let me amend that statement. I was going to say it's probably going to be one of these, like you would use in a Bogner. In fact, I ordered these 2 fuse holders for a Bogner I have here. And that goes like that, and it screws from the other side. The issue with the Bogner style, while I probably won't do it, is it requires a flat blade screwdriver to go in. And for whatever reason, no one ever uses the correct size flat blade screwdriver, or even just the correct size thumbnail. They'll use a too small screwdriver, and then it gets all chewed up. But I like these otherwise because they're very low profile. So I'll revisit that. I may use these, and maybe I'll use number 1 or use number 2 flat head screwdriver only, or your thumbnail, for God's sake, on the label, if I can fit all that in there. I can get a little tiny paragraph. This, I believe, is a 3AG fuse holder. So I will find out when I try to put a fuse in it. But I do think of these things. I like low profile. Low profile is our friend. What is not our friend is, that's the best way to put that. I can make something fairly idiot-proof, but not entirely. So the ones with the conical ends that you just do with your finger, or knurled ends that you just do with your fingers, are probably easier for guitarists, or at least less likely to get chewed up by guitarists. Before anyone gets irate, I'm a guitarist too, and I have had my share of dumb things I've done to amps and gear in the past, so don't think that I'm sitting in judgment, but it is a consideration. The knurled stuff, if I can find a low profile that you can do with your fingers as opposed to using a tool, I will. I'm going to be looking on Mauser for that very soon. But until then, I know that this is going to work, so I don't have to sweat it.